Are you alone right now? Listen, you need people in your life. And look, I get it. I'm a digital pastor of a digital church, and so this might sound a little bit hypocritical, but you need actual humans, like physically present in your immediate vicinity. People who know you, and people who can count on you, and people who you can count on. I saw the results of a 2022 survey recently. It was of thousands of Americans regarding their relationships. 82% of people said that the people they spend the most time with don't know them deeply. 68% said they have 3 or fewer close friends. And 54% said that they don't have a friend they'd feel comfortable calling in the middle of the night if there was an emergency. I mean, hey, did you catch that? If everything came crashing down in the middle of the night, half of the participants wouldn't know who to call. That's a helpless feeling. A stressful one. 3 months after our daughter was born, my wife Alana and I were out grocery shopping in the afternoon. She had been complaining about some abdominal pain the day before, but as we returned to the car in the parking lot, she got into the front seat and was completely doubled over. So I quickly rushed her to the emergency room, and we waited and waited. It was getting close to when I was supposed to pick up our 4-year-old from daycare, but what was I going to do? Take our infant who relies on Alana for food and go pick up my son? That would mean leaving Alana alone in the ER. Do I leave her the baby? I didn't know what to do, so I called my closest friend for help, who's really my only friend in town. But they were out of town, so now what? I mean, there's breast milk in the freezer that I could use to feed Margot from a bottle, I guess, but she had never actually used a bottle before at that point. I decided to leave my wife in pain, take my daughter, and go pick up my son and then take them both home. And every few minutes I'd text Alana and see how she was doing. I fed Levi, and then I put him to bed. And then I tried to start feeding Margot with the bottle. But she refused it. No matter what I tried, I couldn't get her to eat. And she was so hungry that she started crying and screaming, and there was nothing that I could do to soothe her. And so I would check in with Alana via text. And it was, 6 p.m., she's still in pain. 8 p.m., still in pain, still waiting. Eventually, 13 hours later, she finally found out she needed her appendix removed. It was 1 a.m. at this point, and Margot still hadn't taken a bottle. Levi was asleep upstairs. I felt helpless, anxious, and I felt alone. I was in the 54% of people who had no one to call for help. Listen, I love technology. I love that we're a digital church connecting in nearly 40 different countries. I love meeting one-on-one with some of you for video calls. I have a group chat with my buddies that's been active for like a decade, but there's no substitute for physical presence. We need people in our lives. One of humanity's oldest creation narratives, found in Genesis 2 in the Bible, it makes this point. After the creation of one man, the God character says to himself these important words. He says, "It's not good for man to be alone." We're more anxious alone because our body can sense that we're in danger. Whether you think so or not, your lonely body knows that it's in trouble if anything goes sideways. No one is truly, purely self-sufficient. Other stuff starts to get weird too. We start to view other people as threats. It's no surprise that the less time we spent with people during the pandemic, the more suspicious and harsh the public discourse got. It's not good for human beings to be alone. And listen, this isn't just a negative thing. So many enjoyable and important physiological processes require eye contact and subtle smells and touch and hugs and handshakes. Our dopamine and our serotonin and our oxytocin, those feel-good neurotransmitters that we crave, they're all dependent in different ways on our physical interaction with other people. Now, did the ancient author of Genesis 2 know all that science when they wrote those words? No, definitely not. But they knew that it wasn't good for human beings to be alone. While I was a part of that 54% with no one to call, thankfully my wife, Alana, was not. She reached out to a friend from work. Her name was Deanna. Deanna and her husband, Uger, answered Alana's midnight call. And they got in their car and drove 20 minutes to come to our house. And they stayed the night with Levi so that I could take Margot to the hospital to feed and be with Alana. They also offered to watch Levi the following day too, as we attempted to regain our bearings in the midst of the emergency. Friends, we need each other. We need to be known. We need to be loved. And we need to be needed. It's part of the basic blueprint for being human. Now, this channel is all about helping you understand and practice the Christian faith, especially if you don't go to church right now. So you might be wondering, well, Corey, what does this have to do with practicing Christianity? Well, one of the non-negotiables of Christianity is following the way of Jesus, and that includes community. The way of Jesus included eating and praying and walking and working with people who knew him and loved him, people he knew and people he loved. And he said that the greatest display of that love was to lay down one's life for a friend. And I think we can all agree that we need more of that self-sacrificial love in the world. We need people putting aside their own needs to take care of the needs of others. But you don't get that in the world if it doesn't start in your small corner of the world. And it doesn't start in my small corner of the world unless I start to practice with the actual people who are around me. You need people in your life. And listen, I know, if you're like me and you're an adult, no longer in school, making new friends is hard. It sucks. So as we wrap up, I thought I'd leave you with maybe some suggestions for doing the thing that so many of us avoid doing. Number one, hang out outside in your neighborhood until you meet somebody. Say hi, introduce yourself. It's not everything, but it's something. It's a start. Google around for a local group that shares your hobby or interest. Join a run club. Runners are usually such positive people to hang out with anyway, even if you're not a runner. Next time you need something, instead of running to the store to go get it, if it makes sense, go ask your neighbor for it. This was actually my first meaningful interaction with my neighbor. It started with me knocking on his door for a cup of milk, which he was very confused by. And then it ended up with us getting together for drinks every now and then and helping each other out around the house, and we became friends. Invite some people over, maybe from work. Have people over for a meal or drinks or snacks. Make sure there's something to do, even if that something is just staring at a fire. Believe it or not, making friends is a skill. It takes time. It requires practice and putting yourself out there. So I'm curious, what about you? What have you done to make new friends? Where have you found your people? Or if you haven't, where are you going to start looking? You need to do this. You need people. We all do. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.